Shalom, family.
Shalom, shalom.
All right, man. Happy Purim to everybody.
All right,
man.
nice.
Everybody's online. Y'all joining us in online. Happy Purim to y'all. Welcome to another Messenger of the Covenant. Holy Feast Day. Purim is the one we'll be celebrating right now. Had a beautiful Nicanor last night. We're continuing on in the celebration of our the Lord putting his hand before our enemies and making sure that we stayed delivered. We stayed in the righteous fashion of being the chosen people of the Most High God. You know, being delivered from the hands of our enemies is something that we continually pray for. We look at the examples of our forefathers and foremothers as we did before. Let's jump over there to that scripture we read last night, because that was a beautiful one, man, in Maccabees. Second Maccabees. All the time we have to pray, reminisce about our enemies and how the Most High walked before us. What was that? That was in Second Maccabees 15?
Yeah. So we pray in Second Maccabees 15 and 22. 21, 22. Is that the one?
No, that wasn't the one we read last night. Last night was the one we were talking about the histories.
Oh.
Well, let's start off in Romans 15:4 while I'm looking for that one.
Okay.
Where he admonished Israel. So we got to remember about the deeds of our forefathers.
Yeah.
That was in Maccabees. Oh, Lord. Why did I draw a blank on that?
Book of
I got it. First Maccabees 2. There you go.
Oh,
51.
First
Maccabees 51. Shalaki, chapter 2, verse 51.
That's
the one right there.
All right. Book of First Maccabees, chapter 2, verse 51. Call to remembrance what acts our fathers did in their time, so shall we receive great honor and an everlasting name.
So how we get great honor and an everlasting name with the Most High says we have to call to remembrance the acts of our forefathers and the foremothers. We have to recollect on the histories. We got to see how and did they pray to the Most High? What type of actions did they do for the Most High to answer and hear their prayers and deliver us in our captivities, in our bondages, and in our places of despair? So calling to remembrance, meaning that we have to go back, check the histories. We got to see how our people survived during these times of oppression. Read on.
Verse 52, was not Abraham found faithful in temptation, and it was imputed unto him for righteousness? Joseph, in the time of his distress, kept the commandment and was made Lord of Egypt. Phinehas, our father, in being zealous and fervent, obtained the covenant of an everlasting priesthood. Jesus, for fulfilling the word, was made a judge in Israel. Caleb, for bearing witness before the congregation, deceived the heritage of the land.
Now, the Jesus they talking about with Joshua, but at the same time, we're seeing this is Judas Maccabeus, Mattathias, giving inspiration to our people when it was time for the destruction of our enemies, when we had to rise up to defend ourselves. He said, look, we got to think about how did our forefathers get by? How did the glory of the Lord rest upon them? So he's going down the histories of many of the great men of our nation. Read on.
Verse 56. Caleb, for bearing witness before the congregation, received the heritage of the land. David, for being merciful, possessed the throne of an everlasting kingdom. Elias, for being zealous and fervent for the law, was taken up into heaven. Ananias, Azarias, and Misael, by believing, were saved out of the flame. Daniel, for his innocency, was delivered from the mouth of lions. And thus, consider ye throughout all ages, that none that put their trust in him shall be overcome.
You see that? If we trusted the Most High, said nobody can overcome us. That's when Israel, when we are on point with the Lord, fearing the Most High, keeping his commandments, being obedient, doing as the Most High wishes us to do, or commands us to do. I shouldn't say wishes, commands us to do. There's no overthrowing us. We're looking at damn near an unstoppable enemy right now that holds us in captivity, man. You leave it to the rest of the nations, they all stand in fear. And they got nukes, they got bombs, they got guns, they got ammunition, they got gold and wealth and money, and they won't step to this place. Here we are held in complete bondage and ain't got nothing but, pea shooters in our back pockets. For the ignorant jakes out there with drugs and pipes in their hands and, pills in one pocket and condoms in the other. They don't care about what's going on in life. We don't stand a chance. Unorganized, undisciplined, the Lord said, look, you don't stand a chance without me. That's just the bottom line. If we don't get it together, he said, the only way that we can overcome is what? Read 61 one more time.
Daniel, for his innocency was delivered from the mouth of lions, and thus consider ye throughout all ages that none that put their trust in him shall be overcome.
See that? So none that put their trust in the Most High will ever be overcome. Will never be overthrown. So let's get to the lesson, man. John, let's start off with John 15. John 15:13.
Okay.
And we want to keep this in mind, and this can be the precedence that we set for the feast. John 15:13.
Book of John, chapter 15, verse 13. Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friend.
And that's the words from Yahweh Shai. He said the greatest love the one can have is one that is willing to sacrifice and lay down his life for his friend. So when we read and we understand the histories of what happened with Esther and Mordecai, them willing to sacrifice their lives, willing to put their reputations, their lives literally on the line for the nation of Israel, for the preservation of our people, the preservation of our laws and our customs. They were willing to die or put their lives on the line so that Israel in 2023, as we're having this great awakening of our people, we have to look back and look at our forefathers and foremothers and say, what did they do to get us to this point? We read about the Maccabees fighting during the times of the dedication in order for us to maintain and keep the laws, the sacrifices that they made. Babies getting killed in the streets, women getting slaughtered, men getting ravaged, and having to stand up to a large host known as the Greek Empire. We had to fight in order for us to maintain and have these books, have these records. Right now, a sister had to go and sacrifice herself to marry a heathen. And even at that point, there was a plan to exterminate our whole people because our forefather and elder brother Mordecai stood up against the oppressions that was happening from a so-called white man called Haman and a plot to destroy our people. So Yahweh said, greater love have no man in this, that a man laid down his life for his friends. Give me also Matthew 5:41. So we're talking about elements of sacrifice. We're talking about not being self-willed and putting yourself before others and your own desires. I mean, she could have had every right to say, man, ain't no way I'm dealing with that heathen. I'm not doing it. I don't care what you say. She didn't have no choice in the matter. She said, my nation is more important. If this means that our people may have a chance to survive and under this captivity, then so be it. Matthew 5:41.
Book of St. Matthew, chapter 5, verse 41. And whosoever shall compel thee to go a mile, go with him twain.
You see, that's being like-minded. That's going along with one who compels you on a journey, on a mission, on an endeavor in righteousness. The Lord said, if you've been asked to go and get somebody's back, you go do that. Go with them twain. Make the sacrifice. These are the things that we learned from our forefathers and foremothers. Let's head over to Deuteronomy 28:64. The time frame that we're looking at right now is early 4th century BC, during the time of the Persian and the Mede Empire. This is part of the diaspora and the scattering of the children of Israel, which is one of our curses. Go ahead.
Book of Deuteronomy 28, verse 64. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other. And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone.
So our people that just came out of being, we're not even came out of, we're captives to Babylon. From Babylon now, after the Persians and the Medes conquered Babylon, now we're getting transferred over as property to the Persians now. You know, so this is what ends up happening. Here we are scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, and now we get sent over to the Persians now. Let's get that history real quick in Daniel 7. And give me verse 1, and then we'll just drop down. We'll read verse 5 and get right to the point.
Book of Daniel, chapter 7, and verse 1. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matter.
So Daniel is interpreting the dream that he received from the Most High, right? Now, he's in the Babylonian Empire, understanding that they were the ruling power at the time. So all of these are similitudes that we're going to read, that we're going to read about. But we're going to just read verse 5 and get right to the point. These are four kingdoms that the Most High showed Daniel in this vision. Everybody know those kingdoms? We know it's the Babylonians, the Persians and the Medes, the Greeks and the Romans. The four kingdoms, the four beasts that's mentioned in Daniel chapter 7 are four kingdoms. Okay? You can read that in the 18th verse. Let's read that real quick. No, I'm sorry. That's not the 18th. That's 20. Where's that at? This is the king.
17?
17, yeah.
The book of Daniel 7, verse 17. These great beasts, which are four kings, which shall arise out of the earth.
So it's talking about four kingdoms that's going to be arisen up out of this earth. The first one is the Babylonian kingdom. Now let's read verse 5.
Verse 5. And behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, Arise, devour much flesh.
All right, so this is the Persians and the Mede Empire. Now it says when it was raised itself on one side, meaning one side was going to be more dominant than the other. The Persians eventually took over the entire kingdom and defeated the Medes in internal conflict, right? So now the Persians are leaning on one side, the Persians and the Medes. Eventually, it just became the Persian Empire, or the Achaemenid Empire, as is also known as. The 3 ribs are the 3 kingdoms that they took down in order to get this control. You had Lydia was one kingdom. That was in 546 BC. You had Egypt. They took out in 525 BC. And you have Babylon, which was the last kingdom that they had to take out in 539 BC to gain control of the entire populace of the world. Okay? So when we're reading about the Persians and the Mede Empire, this is what we have to put ourselves in when we're reading about this history of Esther and Mordecai. Okay, let's go over to Ezra the first. You know what? No. Esther. We'll go to Esther 1, read verse 1. And we'll get right to it. We're not going to read the whole book of Esther, but, you know, for the brothers and sisters that's online, anybody that's new, you're just learning about this, read all of Esther and the additions of Esther in your Apocryphas to get the complete history. We're going to bounce around and kind of consolidate the histories and the information, but it's important that you read what went on with our people if you have not as of yet. All right, so let's read Esther chapter 1 and verse 1.
Book of Esther, chapter 1, verse 1. Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus, this is Ahasuerus, which reigned from India even unto Ethiopia.
All right, can you pull up that map? So it says, now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus, this is Ahasuerus, which reigned from India even unto Ethiopia, over 107 and 20 provinces. So they're showing you the expansion of how big the Persian empire was. 127 provinces within this. They had one of the largest empires geographically known in history amongst all empires. One of the largest. Okay, you can see it on the map right there in the orange. From east to west, you see how big the empire was. So going from the east, it said from India, even all the way down into the southern eastern tips of Africa, known as Ethiopia. All right. So if you see on the map, you're going to see that big orange space. That's all of their empire. Okay. One man was ruling and controlling all of this, known as Ahasuerus. In the Greek, his name would be Xerxes. Xerxes the first. All right. Go to Additions of Esther real quick. I think it's in here.
Okay.
Editions of Esther.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's in third.
Start on page 57.
Yeah, I think 13.
55. Page 55.
You know what?
In the apartment.
Yeah, 55. 13 and read verse 1.
The rest of the chapters of the book of Esther, chapter 13. The copy of the letters was this: the great king Artaxerxes writeth these things to the princes and governors that are under him from India unto Ethiopia, in 107 and 20 provinces.
So, you know, sometimes you get some of these historians, they're like, who nobody knows who Ahasuerus was. Historically, we don't see who that is. No, the Bible tells us who it was. Xerxes the first. Okay. This is who he was. This was his rulership from 485 to 465 BC. He ruled. Now this is the Additions of Esther giving us an understanding of who he was. Now let's go back over to Esther chapter 1. Esther chapter 1. So we had a 21-year reign. And now he's laying out a decree throughout his whole dominion, right? This guy was rich, loved to party, and he had was constantly having these parties, right? So now he's putting out a decree that he wanted to have a party to celebrate his wife Vashti. Wanted to put her on Front Street, wanted to profile her a little bit, you know. Go ahead and read that. Continue on.
Esther chapter 1, verse 2. That in those days, when the king Ahasuerus sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was in Shushan, the palace, in the 3rd year of his reign, he made a feast unto all his princes and his servants, the power of Persia and Media, the nobles and princes of the provinces being before him.
Mm-hmm.
When he showed the riches of his glorious kingdom and the honor of his excellent majesty many days, even 180 days. And when these days were expired, the king made a feast unto all the people that were present in Shushan, the palace, both unto great and small, 7 days in the court of the garden of the king's palace.
So you see, this guy like to do it big. 7-day party, says small, great. Everybody, you know, takes part in the glory that he was trying to put out there. Okay, celebrating his kingdom and his rulership. Drop down, read verse 9 to 12.
Verse 9. Also Vashti, the queen, made a feast for the women in the royal house which belonged to the king, to King Ahasuerus.
So he's having his party. Here she goes, well, I can party too. I'm gonna have my own party. I'm inviting the girls over, and she want to have her party, right? Read on.
On the 7th day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, he commanded Mehuman, Bitha, Harbona, Bigtha, and Bagatha, Zethar, and Carcas, the 7 chamberlains that served in the presence of Ahasuerus the king, to bring Vashti the queen before the king with the crown royal, to show the people and the princes her beauty, for she was fair to look on.
So the last day of the feast, he says, I want to bring my wife out. I want everybody to see how fine she is. I want everybody to fawn over her. And here, Vashti's being called to come to the front and so that she could be shown off. Did you read 12?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
But the queen Vashti refused to come.
So like, so. Oh, go ahead, finish that.
At the king's commandment
Mm-hmm.
by his chamberlains. Therefore was the king very wroth, and his anger burned in him.
So Vashti committed a act of rebellion. She refused. She said, "I'm partying with my girls. I ain't going out there." He trying to get me, trying to show me off. I'm not a little trophy. I'm not doing it. Okay, drop down, read verse 15 down to 18.
Verse 15. What shall we do unto the queen Vashti, according to law, because she hath not performed the commandment of the king Ahasuerus by the chamberlains? And Memucan answered before the king and the princess of Vashti, the queen hath not done wrong to the king only, but also to all the princes and to all the people that are in all the provinces of the king Ahasuerus.
Now, you notice that Mahmud Khan said, well, we got to do something about this. He already seen, she's already partying with all the women. So she go in there and said, the chamberlains come in and say, Vashti, the king wants you, come on out. No, I'm not going. We ain't having it. The women in there, did you see that girl? She stood up to the, we're going to do the same thing. My husband told me, I ain't doing it. So now Mahmud Khan said, there's going to be all kind of rebellion and hell going on in here in our households, man, if we don't do something about this. So, King, what do you propose? Read on.
Verse 17. Verse 16, I'm sorry. And Memucan answered before the king and the princess, Vashti the queen hath not done wrong to the king only, but also to all the princes and to all the people that are in all the provinces of the king Ahasuerus. For this deed of the queen shall come abroad unto all women, so that they shall despise their husbands in their eyes when it shall be reported. The king Ahasuerus commanded Vashti the queen to be brought in before him, but she came not. Likewise shall the ladies of Persia and Media say this day unto all the king's princes, which have heard of the deed of the queen. Thus shall there arise too much contempt and wrath.
So it said there's going to be much contempt and wrath going on if they don't get this thing back in order. Okay, Proverbs. Let's go to Proverbs. Proverbs 19 and verse 12.
Book of Proverbs 19 and verse 12. Verse 12. The king's wrath is as the roaring of a lion, but his favor is as dew upon the grass.
So remember this as we continue reading on in the histories of what's going on. So it says, when the king is mad, he has is like the roaring of a lion. So a vicious, hungry lion. You hear that growl, man, and you hear him roar. Everybody's getting shook up about that. Did anybody see that movie? What was the name of that movie with that we went to go see with the Beast with the lion and yeah. I mean that lion was relentless, man. Relentless, hunting them down everywhere. They killed all the Edomites, killed the little African cats up in there, the whole village, and was on a mission hunting them down because why? The poachers killed his was it one of his pride. So he was on a mission for revenge. Now imagine that's how a king is, where he's just relentless with wanting justice and wanting things to be done his way. He's gonna stop at nothing in order to get his will fulfilled. But it said also, if you got his favor, is as the dew upon the grass. Anytime that grass gets that dew, it always flourishes, always grows, stays healthy, benefits the herbs, benefits the agriculture. So if you get the king's favor, you can't do nothing but prosper and grow from it. So we're going to see how Esther eventually gained the favor of the king. And we also see how his anger almost got Israel completely destroyed. Okay, let's go back to Esther. And let's jump over to actually, you know what? Give me First Samuel. 1 Samuel 15:23, just so we can see
Mhm.
how the Most High feels about rebellion. If the heathen understand and know rebellion and that is unacceptable, not right, and is going to get us in a lot of trouble and can destroy our kingdom and destroy our households. How do you think the Most High feels about how Israel should be conducting themselves?
Mhm.
First Samuel 15:23.
Book of Samuel, chapter 15, verse 23. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft.
So the Most High said, when one rebels against his righteousness, rebels against the law, rebels in the household, the Lord said that's like the sin of witchcraft. And the law says that a witch should be put to death. So rebellion is punishable by death in the eyes of the Lord. Read on.
And stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry.
Now, you see how stubborn Vashti was? The Most High was like that. Them heathens are going through it down there. Stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. And all of us can have stubborn ways in us. Those are things that we got to look within and make sure that we're not being stubborn and going against the righteousness of the Most High. That we're not being so stubborn that we're finding ourselves in rebellion, whether it be in our households, in our congregations, in our friendships or relationships, or whatever the case may be. Witchcraft, stubbornness, idolatry, iniquity, all of those things are found through the foundations of rebellion. Continue on.
Because thou hast rejected the word of the Lord, he hath also rejected thee.
So that was a judgment that Samuel told Saul because of his iniquity and his rebellion against the Most High, that he was going to be dethroned and eventually put to death by the Most High. Let's go back to Esther. Actually, before we go to Esther, Habakkuk, chapter 1 and verse 4.
Look at Habakkuk chapter 1, verse 4. Therefore the law is slacked, and judgment doth never go forth. For the wicked doth compass about the righteous. Therefore wrong judgment proceedeth.
So this is why Mamukan was going to Ahasuerus and saying, we've got to lay down right judgment. If we let this thing slack and go by, man, we're going to lose it all. And I'll be damned if my wife is coming home acting a damn fool against me. We can't afford to do that. We're living and flourishing as the greatest kingdom right now, and it can all fall because of the rebelliousness of the women. So we said we can't have slack. Judgment has to go forth. The wicked can't compass the righteous if we don't do something about this. So this is why actions had to be taken. And now they're getting ready to propose a solution. All right, let's go back to Esther and jump over to chapter 2 and read 1 down to 8.
Look at Esther chapter 2, verse 1. After these things, when the wrath of King Ahasuerus was appeased, he remembered Vashti and what she had done and what was decreed against her. Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, let there be fair young virgins sought for the king, and let the king appoint officers in all the provinces of his kingdom, that they may gather together all the fair young virgins unto Shushan, the palace, to the house of the women, unto the custody of Haggai, the king's chamberlain, keeper of the women, and let their things for purification be given them.
You know what, Slaki, I meant to bring out this other point. I forgot. Show them the Cyrus cylinder. Just as another historical reference, you got the Cyrus cylinder, which is an archaeological find that they found in Mesopotamia that shows the histories of the kings of Persia, and also documents the Persians' conquering of Babylon. All right. So I'll read a little bit of what it's showing and saying. If you can't read it, it says the Cyrus cylinder is an ancient clay cylinder now broken into several pieces on which is written a declaration in Akkadian cuneiform script in the name of Persia's Achaemenid King Cyrus the Great. It dates from the 6th century BC and was discovered in the ruins of the ancient Mesopotamian city of Babylon in 1879. It is currently in the possession of the British Museum, which sponsored the expedition that discovered the cylinder. It was created and used as a foundation deposit following the Persian conquest of Babylon in 539 BC. So that gives us more history of understanding why we read Daniel, the 7th chapter, showing how the Persians defeated the Babylonians. This is documented. This is shown through archaeology that this happened. So when we're reading about these things, we got to take it to heart that this is all real history and all things that happened during these times. Okay. So it documents the Persian conquest of Babylon in 539, when the Neo-Babylonian Empire was invaded by Cyrus and incorporated into his Persian Empire. The text on the cylinder praises Cyrus, sets out his genealogy, and portrays him as a king from a line of kings. The Babylonian king Nabonidus, who was defeated and deposed by Cyrus, is denounced as an impious oppressor of the people of Babylonia, and his low-born origins are implicitly contrasted to Cyrus' kingly heritage. All right, and you can write down Ezra, the 1st chapter. Ezra chapter 1, like 1 through 3. And it tells you how, Ezra was documenting when Cyrus came into power. And it said that it was to be written down. So just showing the records had to be kept of, Ezra 1. And just 1 down to like verse 3, will give you that history regarding the artifacts and why things are documented and how the Most High made sure that the book of the Lord remains pure and true. When it gives us the histories and we're talking about these histories and these people, the archaeology backs it up. It also goes and proves that this stuff was real and this history was real, and that our forefathers and our foremothers did and had to go through these things for the deliverance of our people. So I meant to bring that out earlier. I didn't want to go without adding that on. But let's jump back over to Esther 2 and pick it up at verse 4 now. Actually, read verse 3 one more time.
Look at Esther chapter 2, verse 3. And let the king appoint officers in all the provinces of his kingdom, that they may gather together all the fair young virgins unto Shushan, the palace, to the house of the women, unto the custody of Hegai, the king's chamberlain, keeper of the women, and let their things for purification be given them.
So the judgment with Vashti was banished. She was removed from her seat. And now King Ahasuerus or Xerxes is trying to find a new wife. Okay. And now he sent the letter out to all the provinces, the 127 provinces, all throughout that vast land that we saw on the map earlier, looking for a new wife. She had to be a virgin. And of course, she's going to have to bring a virtuousness to her, or have a virtuousness about herself in order to gain the king's favor and to get to be his next queen. So it's almost like a big pageant, that was being held. And this went over a 2-year period that he's looking for his new wife. Okay. So read on.
Verse 4. And let the maiden which pleaseth the king be queen instead of Vashti. And the thing pleased the king, and he did so. Now in Shushan the palace, there was a certain Jew, whose name was Mordecai, the son of Jair, the son of Shimei, the son of Kish, a Benjamite, who had been carried away from Jerusalem with the captivity in which had been carried away with Jehoiakim.
You see, that's what we talked about earlier. We went from one oppressor to the next, one property to the next, and they did the same thing to us during slavery. Once we had a new owner, new master comes in, you get passed off as property. They did the same thing, bought and sold, passed down to generation to generation. The son inherits everything. The same thing was going on back then. So Mordecai was part of the Babylonian captivity. It said that he was carried away captive in Jerusalem, and he got passed along over here into the Persians and the Medes now. Read on.
Verse 7. And he brought up Hadassah, that is Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother, And the maid was fair and beautiful, whom Mordecai, when her father and mother were dead, took for his own daughter.
So Mordecai, her cousin, her elder cousin, took care of her when her parents passed away. Okay, so he did the duty of taking care of the widowed children or whatnot, and or the, I guess they would consider the orphan, But he took care of his own, his near kinswoman or whatnot. So that was his cousin. He took care of her, raised her. All right, read on.
Verse 8. So it came to pass, when the king's commandment and his decree was heard, and when many maidens were gathered together unto Shushan the palace, to the custody of Haggai, that Esther was brought also unto the king's house, to the custody of Haggai, keeper of the women.
So Esther now has been selected to be part of this pageantry for Ahasuerus to find a new queen. Okay, drop down, read verse 12.
Verse 12. Now when every maid's turn was come to go in to King Ahasuerus, after she had been 12 months, according to the manner of the women, for so were the days of their purifications accomplished, to wit, 6 months with oil of myrrh, and 6 months with sweet odors, and with other things for the purifying of the women.
So they went through massive pampering and all kind of purification processes and spa treatments and the whole nine.
Cleansing.
Cleansing them, making sure that they was all prepared to be on to look their best for the king. It said this was a year process. Can you imagine? No, you ain't ready yet. No, I just showered. You ain't ready yet. 6 months in myrrh, being bathed in myrrh, and next 6 months, sweet odors and other things, whatever the other things of purification, who knows? Yeah, but they went through massive amounts of beautifying. You just had the Mary Kay, the pampering party or whatnot. They was doing that for 6 months. I mean, for a year.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
Getting beautified and purified and getting prepared. And Esther was in there getting treated like royalty. Right? Read on.
Verse 13. Then thus came every maiden unto the king. Whatsoever she desired was given her, to go with her out of the house of the women unto the king's house. In the evening she went, and on the morrow she returned unto the second house of the women, to the custody of Shashashgaz, the king's chamberlain, which kept the concubines. She came in unto the king no more, except the king delighted in her, and that she were called by name.
And this reminds me of where Esau steals these damn shows with the Bachelor and Flavor. What's that? Flavor Flav. He had that goofy show where he was trying to select a fake girlfriend. He was trying to have a house full of women. They all trying to impress him and all want to get his favor. That's the same stuff that Esau be doing, man. David did this all back in the scriptures. Esau have an original bone in his body. He steals everything. Okay, so it's anything that they needed, anything they wanted, all they had to do was let it be known. The king said, "Yeah, give them whatever they need, man. Make sure they right." Go ahead.
Verse 15. Now when was that? Verse 15. Mm-hmm. Now when the turn of Esther, the daughter of Abihail, the uncle of Mordecai, who had taken her for his daughter, was come to go unto the king, she required nothing but what Haggai, the king's chamberlain, the keeper of the women, appointed. Excuse me. And Esther obtained favor in the sight of all them that looked upon her.
Now remember that we just seen what the favor of the king was worth in Proverbs 19. That said, everybody was looking like, who's this over here? This Jew, bad little Jew sister. She didn't need nothing but what was given to her. The rest of said, I need more of this. I need more of that. Esther's over here sitting up with her feet up, like, I don't need none of that. I'm good.
Natural beauty.
Natural beauty, man. Yeah. She didn't need none of that. Everybody was amazed looking at her like, damn.
Wow.
We didn't need all that. You know, Esau now they run around getting butt shots and lip injections and everything they can trying to compete and trying to look right.
Uh-huh.
You know, there's a massive surgery wave going on amongst women right now.
BBLs.
BBLs, and you know, the competition of trying to, you know, keep up with the Joneses and the beautification of and the vainglory that goes on the internet and self-certification. But
Brazilian
Brazilian butt
butt
lift.
lift.
That's when they get the butt surgeries.
A Brazilian
Brazilian
butt
butt lifts. That's for another time, man. They wasn't doing it here, but we just saying how all of the things that the women are doing to enhance their beauties relegated to what was going on back then, you know. But it said Esther didn't need none of that. Mm-hmm. And she got the favor of all of them that looked upon her.
Right.
Okay. That was it, a 15?
Yeah.
Okay. Read down to 17.
Verse 16. So Esther was taken unto King Ahasuerus into his house, royal in the 10th month, which is the month Tebeth, in the 7th year of his reign. And the king loved Esther above all the women, and she obtained grace and favor in his sight more than all the virgins, so that he set the royal crown upon her head and made her queen instead of Vashti.
So that's like that dude there on the grass. She gained the favor of the king. All bets is off now. You know, Ahasuerus is turned out. He said Esther said she's the one.
She's the one.
She's
Over
the one.
all of them.
Overall, and can you imagine of the 127 prophecies? Let's just say it was one from each.
Come.
127 women. She's the chosen. And it's only right because she is Israel.
Yeah.
You know, from the seed of Benjamin.
Absolutely.
You know, she's been chosen. Right? And it said the queen loved Esther. He didn't even know her. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Even when she went through this year purifying and the year being selected up. As soon as he see the man, he was smitten and fell in love, man. You know, love at first sight. And she looking like, God dang, I got selected. Woe is me. Like, okay, but, you know, I guess I got to go through with this.
Right. So,
Okay. Jump over to chapter 3 and verse 1.
Verse 1, chapter 3.
Yeah, Con, you read down to verse 8.
After these things did King Ahasuerus promote Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, and advanced him and set his seat above all the princes that were with him.
So the Agagite, meaning that this man was a Edomite. Okay. And you can read that in, I believe it's in 1 Samuel 15. It's 15 and 8. Con. Y'all can write that one down to get, well, you know, let's just go there real quick.
2 Samuel 15, verse 8.
He's an Amalekite. 1 Samuel.
Is it first?
Yeah, 1 Samuel 15.
Okay.
And read, just get right to the point, verse 8.
1 Samuel 15 and verse 8. Verse 8. And he took Agag, the king of the Amalekites, alive, and utterly destroyed all the people with the edge of the sword.
So this guy was a descendant of the Amalekites that King Saul spared, that the Most High said, don't spare them. Now do you see why the Most High said, man, utterly destroy all of them? Because his descendant came back to destroy Israel later. That's why the Most High said, man, don't let them live. You better take them all out. And Saul said, oh, no, me and the Gag is cool. He got all kind of victuals and gold and cattle and everything. We can take this and we can make good use of this. The Most High says, Saul, you just don't know. You being rebellious, man. Now I got to take you out.
Well, Nat Turner was right. Huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you made that point last night about Nat Turner. He said, man, this baby's going to grow up, man, and be just like his dad.
Yeah.
Take him out. Now we see what happened. And then you can also write down, I think, Numbers 24 and 7, give you about the Amalekites. But they're descendants of Esau, Duke of Esau, Edom, right? And this is who Haman was. And now we're seeing that, and I made the point all the time, that Esau was subservient to all the nations. He didn't gain his power until him being that third beast, the Greeks. So here he is getting promoted within the Persian Empire. Go back and you can read that in Esther.
Okay. Esther 3, verse 2. And all the king's servants that were in the king's gate bowed and reverenced Haman, for the king had so commanded concerning him. But Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence. Then the king's servants which were in the king's gate said unto Mordecai, Why transgressest thou the king's commandment?
Mm-hmm.
Now it came to pass when they spake daily unto him, and he hearkened not unto them, that they told Haman to see whether Mordecai's matters would stand, for he had told them that he was a Jew.
So everybody bowed down to Haman, always trying to show reverence. That's something the white man. As soon as he gets promoted, he wants to start, moving in his vainglory. I'm God now. All of y'all bow down to me. Everybody see me bow down. Mordecai didn't bow down. And they said, well, why are you not paying homage? Why are you not bowing down like everybody else? Mordecai said, man, because I'm a Jew, man. I'm an Israelite. We don't bow down to man. We don't bow down to you heathen. Now they knew it was a problem. So it said, the king's servants which were in the king's gate said to Mordecai, why transgressest thou the king's commandment? In verse 4, he said, because I'm a Jew. Go ahead.
Verse 5. And when Haman saw that Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence, then was Haman full of wrath. And he thought scorn to lay hands on Mordecai alone, for they had showed him the people of Mordecai.
He would have lost that one.
Big time.
He said, you're going to try to step to Mordecai and try to lay hands on him alone. He said, man, one-on-one, Mordecai. You read the history about them Benjamites and Judges?
Come on.
One tribe was going at it with all of Israel and was hanging.
Yeah.
So Benjamin ain't no joke. Saul wasn't no joke before he went off. So this Amalekite thought he could lay hands on Mordecai alone, man. Mordecai would have whipped him up, man.
Big time.
And you better kicking A and taking names.
Yeah.
Haman's name would have been written all over the place. Mm-hmm. He said, you know what? On second thought, I don't think I'm gonna go that route. I got a bigger plan. Okay. Read 6 again.
And he thought scorn to lay hands on Mordecai alone, for they had showed him the people of Mordecai. Wherefore Haman sought to destroy all the Jews that were throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus.
So he said, you know what? Better yet, why punish him when I can kill all of his people? Read.
Throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus, even the people of Mordecai.
Even the people of Mordecai. Speaking about the Jews. Read on.
In the first month, that is the month of Nisan, in the 12th year of King Ahasuerus, they cast pur, that is the lot, before Haman from day to day, and from month to month to the 12th month, that is the month of Dar.
So the month of Dar, that's what we're in right now. So this is over the 11-month period that we're casting lots. The cast lots is basically to determine the destiny. It's almost like a gamble. The cast lots would mean to figure out what a particular judgment is going to be. In the layman's terms, it's eeny, meeny, miny, mo, draw straws, that type of thing. All right. So they were doing these things to figure out judgment. Go ahead. You can read down to verse 9 and then drop down.
Verse 8. And Haman said unto King Ahasuerus, there's a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the people in all the promises of thy kingdom.
So that's why we read in the curses, Deuteronomy 28:64. And you see how the heathen always still know our history. They know what goes on with our people. I covered that earlier today on DSTN, with Achior and the Ammonites knowing about the plight of the children of Israel and what happens and how the heathen always know what's going on with us. So here Haman is, he's saying, there's these people, man, they've been scattered abroad. They're dispersed all amongst the kingdom. Curse they got, right? Read on.
And their laws are diverse from all people. Neither keep they the king's laws. Therefore, it is not for the king's profit to suffer them. If it please the king, let it be written that they may be destroyed.
Now you see how he just lied and he just expanded. Mordecai not bowing down to him said all the Jews ain't following the laws of the land now. You see how they be embellishing the add on the extras. It wasn't nigga. He did it to me. He's like, what? I wasn't even there.
They gonna get any nigga that's walking down the street.
Yeah, they go make it up like crazy. Didn't you see that with T.O.? Did you see that video? He was going to go, Terrell Owens. He was going to go get his mail in this little community. And the white woman was talking about he was speeding or something. He was like, what are you talking about? And she was like, you were speeding. You was in danger. And the woman was lying and bugged out like a mud. They ended up arresting her. She was acting a damn fool. But as Esau for you, these people are diverse, man. They got their own laws. They don't follow your laws, King. We need to go ahead and take them out. All because Mordecai said, I'm not doing that. Notice he said he was going to put hands on him alone. He said, this is just between me and you. But he said, no, I'm going to make this about your whole people now. I'm framing everybody. That's Esau, always damn lying, man, trying to take out everybody. But go ahead.
Verse 9, if it please the king, let it be written that they may be destroyed, and I will pay 10,000 talents of silver to the hands of those that have the charge of the business to bring it into the king's treasury.
So, money, Esau got the funds. He said, man, I put the bounty out, 10,000 talents of silver to those that have the charge over the business. So everybody, all the bounty hunters want to go out there and kill Israel. 10,000 talents of silver, man, we're going to pay him off. Right? Drop down, read verse 13.
Verse 13, and the letters were sent by post into the king's provinces to destroy.
So Ahasuerus, Xerxes, he believes, he understands it. He said, okay, hey, man, you over there, you the captain of the host. You got to figure it out, man. Go handle it. Whoever these Jews are that's tripping, I can't have no rebelliousness going on in my kingdom. Send a letter out. Go ahead.
To destroy, to kill, and to cause to perish all Jews.
I mean, good Lord.
Both young.
How many words you need to be to describe to kill the Jews? Destroy, kill, and cause to perish. He said, by all means, put them to death. Really? And you read about destruction, the definition there last night. You talking about utter annihilation? I mean,
decimate.
Yeah.
Extinguish. Man.
He said, I want this to happen to all the Jews, man. Destroy them, kill them, cause them to perish. I mean, he was hot. Go ahead.
All Jews, both young and old, little children and women.
No mercy.
In one day, even upon the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month Adar, and to take the spoil of them for a prey.
They said the deadline is by the 13th of the month Adar, which is the 12th month that we're in right now. He said that's the deadline, man. By the 13th, all the Jews need to be put to death. Young, old, doesn't matter.
It's because you know the hell we've been
through. Man.
The hell we've been through.
Con. That's for real, man.
Still going through it.
And yeah, to this day. To this day. Let's jump over to let me see. Jump over to Editions of Esther.
Yeah.
You got something?
It was that same one you probably getting ready to bring out.
So whatever you got, go ahead.
I think it's Editions of Esther 13, 4 down to 7.
Okay. Yeah. So book of Editions of Esther, chapter 13, page 56, starting at verse 4. Declared unto us that in all nations throughout the world there was scattered a certain malicious people that had laws contrary to all nations and continually despised the commandments of kings. So as the uniting of our kingdoms honorably intended us cannot go forward. Seeing then we understand that this people alone is continually in opposition unto all men. Differing in the strange manner of their laws and evil affected to our state, working all the mischief they can, that our kingdom may not be firmly established. Therefore have we commanded that all they that are signified in writing unto you by Amen who is ordained over the affairs, and is next unto us, shall all with their wives and children be utterly destroyed by the sword of their enemies, without all mercy and pity, the 14th day of the 12th month of Adar of this present year, that they of old and now also are malicious, may in one day with violence go into the grave, and so ever hereafter cause our affairs to be well settled and without trouble.
So that lets you know how valuable and how pertinent even the Apocrypha is, because the Apocrypha is a reflection of everything that takes place in the Bible, saying the same thing. So it matches right up perfectly. They were going to kill us. I mean, totally annihilate, put to death, wipe us out completely on the face of the earth.
Genocide.
Exactly. This is how much hate these people have for us unto this day. Matter of fact, that like Nicanor last night, deadly hate.
Yeah.
Deadly hate. Not only hate, but yeah, let's put them to death too. So it's an account within the Apocrypha and an account in the Bible that we were supposed to be completely wiped off the face of the earth. It don't matter.
Good. Let's jump over to chapter 14 in addition to Esther. Same thing.
Okay.
And I want to start at start at 1. So, the word gets out, Esther gets word of what's happening, right? She goes immediately into the fearing of the Most High, and it goes into her prayer mode for the salvation of our people because of this decree that was put out.
Right.
Read verse 1.
Verse 1, Queen Esther also, being in fear of death, resorted unto the Lord, and laid away her glorious apparel, and put on the garments of anguish and mourning. And instead of precious ornaments, she covered her head with ashes and dung, and she humbled her body greatly. And all the places of her joy she filled with her torn hair.
See, she went into complete humility, complete humble mode, praying to the Most High, not for this judgment to happen to our people. Go ahead.
Verse 3, and she prayed unto the Lord, Yahweh of Israel, saying, O my Lord, thou only art our king. Help me, desolate woman, which have no helper but thee. For my danger is in mine hand. From my youth up I have heard in the tribe of my family that thou, O Lord, tookest Israel from among all the people, and our fathers from all their predecessors, for a perpetual inheritance, and thou hast performed whatsoever thou didst promise them. And now we have sinned before thee. Therefore hast thou given us into the hands of our enemies.
So we can stop right there. What is she doing? She going back, remembering the history and what happened with our people. We always reflect back on what got us to where we're at right now. And how we need to get out of it is we have to do the exact opposite that got us in the position that we're in. All the time. That's why we read these histories. That's why we rehearse the righteous acts. That's why we keep the feast days and the holy days and the memorials, because we have to reflect on what happened to our people. We're going to hold 14, but let's jump back over to Esther and the other books of the Bible. I want to recap a little bit of this history leading up to this prayer that she's saying to the Most High. Jump over to chapter 6. Jump over to chapter 6 and start at 1 and read down to 3. We're just going to jump around in this chapter.
Chapter 6, verse 1.
Yep.
On that night could not the king sleep, and he commanded to bring the book of records to the chronicles, and they were read before the king. And it was found written that Mordecai had told Bacthana and Teresh, two of the king's chamberlains, the keepers of the door, who sought to lay hand on the king Ahasuerus.
Oh, you know what? Shalakia. I jumped up a little too fast. Go back to the editions of Esther, and let's read chapter 12 and read 1 down to 6.
Editions of Esther.
So the
12.
decree is put out, the hit is put out on Israel, the date and the day that all Israel is to be put to death, The money's already been established. The bounties is secure. Haman's running around, feeling himself, setting up a gallows that he's wants to hang Mordecai on. He's ready for all this particular glory, right? All the nations within 127 provinces are all clamoring and foaming at the mouth, wanting the money, wanting to kill Israel. And now there's also a plot that is developed to have Ahasuerus killed. But Mordecai gets wind of this. So read that in chapter 12.
Chapter 12, verse 1. And Mordecai took his rest in the court with Gabbatha and Thorah, the two eunuchs of the king and keepers of the palace. And he heard their devices and searched out their purposes and learned that they were about to lay hands upon Artaxerxes, the king. And so he certified the king of them. Then the king examined the two eunuchs, and after that they had confessed it, they were strangled. And the king made a record of these things, and Mordecai also wrote thereof.
So it doesn't sound like Mordecai was that rebellious to the king. It doesn't sound like he was going against him. He heard about a plot to kill the king, and he said, you know what, I got to put the word out. I got to let it be known, man. I heard these two eunuchs plotting to kill him. Now he gets the word. Xerxes finds out, realizes what was taking place, that they were trying to assassinate him. He had them killed, and he said he had to make record of it, of who and how the information got to him and what the judgment was. So this was held within their records. Okay, jump over to chapter back over in the other books of the Bible in chapter 4. I want to jump too far ahead, but chapter 4 and read verse 1 down to verse 3.
Chapter 4, verse 1. When Mordecai perceived all that was done, Mordecai rent his clothes and put a sackcloth with ashes and went out into the midst of the city and cried with a loud and a bitter cry, and came even before the king's gate, for none might enter into the king's gate clothed with sackcloth. And in every province, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, there was great mourning among the Jews, and fasting, and weeping, and wailing, and many lay in sackcloth and ashes.
So the word is getting out. All Israel is finding out that they are scheduled to get put to death. Man. Everybody's going to be after them to put them to death, right? So everybody's in mourning. Everybody's in prayer mode, fasting, going through their weeping. Mordecai approaches Esther and tells her, look, the only way we can get out of this is you got to go approach the king. You got to talk to him. You got to hopefully talk him up out of this. Now, jump over to verse 13.
Verse 13. Then Mordecai commanded to answer Esther, think not with thyself that thou shalt escape in the king's house more than all the Jews. For if thou altogether holdest thy peace at this time, then shall their enlargement and deliverance arise to the Jews from another place. But thou and thy father's house shall be destroyed. And who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this? Then Esther bade them return Mordecai this answer: Go, gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan, and fast ye for me, and neither eat nor drink 3 days, night or day. I also and my maidens will fast likewise, and so will I go unto the king, which is not according to the law, and if I perish, I perish. So Mordecai went his way and did according to all that Esther had commanded him.
So she said that she may perish because it was law that nobody could approach the king's court and chambers. Number one, it said dressed in sackcloth or whatnot. But number two, without an appointment. Anybody went to him, you get put to death. So the understanding was, I'm going unannounced. I'm putting my life on the line. Mordecai said, man, don't think of yourself at this time. We got to try to formulate a plan to try to hopefully convince the king to listen to you. This is a risky move. But she said, I'm all with it. But I need everybody on one accord with me. If I'm going to put my life on the line, I want all Israel praying and fasting with it. So they did a 3-day fast. Jump back over to the additions of Esther. And let's read 14, because we were reading about her prayer. This is the prayer mode that she went in during this fast. And she was praying to the Most High. And read chapter 14 and read 12 down to the end, 12 to 19.
Verse 12.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, O Lord, make thyself known in time of our affliction, and give me boldness, O King of the nations and Lord of all power. Give me eloquent speech in my mouth before the lion. Turn his heart to hate him that fighteth against us.
Remember, it said the king's wrath is like a lion.
Mm-hmm.
See, so she said she asked for eloquent speech in her mouth before the lion to turn his heart to hate him that fighteth against us. So she's asking for the Most High to allow his words to be spoken from her mouth, to get favor from this ultimate destruction and annihilation that was pronounced against our people. Read on.
Give me eloquent speech in my mouth before the lion. Turn his heart to hate him that fighteth against us, that there may be an end of him and of all that are like-minded to him. But deliver us with thine hand, and help me that am desolate, and which have no other helper but thee. Thou knowest all things, O Lord. Thou knowest that I hate the glory of the unrighteous,
Go ahead.
and abhor the bed of the uncircumcised and all of the heathen.
Good Lord. Can you imagine? She said, man, I hate laying next to this dude. I'm in the same bed with this uncircumcised heathen. I hate it. But I do it, and I did it for my people. That's a major sacrifice, man. To be laid up with some damn uncircumcised heathen. Good Lord. She said, I hate this.
Greater love have no
man than this.
To lay down his life.
Straight up. She put it all on the line for us. Read on.
I hate the glory of the unrighteous and abhor the bed of the uncircumcised and all the heathen. Verse 16. Thou knowest my necessity.
That's a cold sister too. She says she hates all the heathen. So you can't get a woman to stand on that right now. I don't hate that. I just, as long as they leave me alone. You're a strong sister like she said, but I hate these damn heathen.
You can't tell me who I can't date.
Right. Right. It's who you love.
Yeah,
get out of here with that foolishness.
Verse 16.
Yeah.
Thou knowest my necessity, for I abhor the sign of my high estate, which is upon mine head in the days wherein I show myself, and that I abhor it as a mistress rag, and that I wear it not when I am private by myself, and that thine handmaid have not eaten at Amon's table, and that I have not greatly esteemed the king's feast, nor drunk the wine of the drink offerings. Neither hath thine handmaid any joy since the day that I was brought hither to this present. But in thee, O Lord, Yahweh of Abraham, O thou mighty God above all, hear the voice of the forlorn, and deliver us out of the hands of the mischievous, and deliver me out of my fear.
Wow, that's a cold prayer that she said during the fast, because she said, my head is on the line. She said, look, and she said she's not taking part in any of these feasts Haman was throwing. He's out here glorying, feeling good. She said, I'm not eating, I'm not toasting about none of that. And she said, I haven't had no joy since I've been in this position. She's sitting right there, man, going through hell every day. She's a queen. He said, you can have anything you want. Save the throne. Whatever you want, Esther, you got it. And she's still sitting there like, I can't. I despise this throne I'm sitting on. You know what I mean? Women was out there clamoring and dying to be in that scene. She said, I don't like this crap. Dealing with this damn heathen every day. I'm not with it. All right, just jump back, man. That's a cold sacrifice a sister made for us.
Like she said, if I perish, I perish.
Yeah, she said,
It
man,
don't matter.
Right.
You know, I'm gonna do this for my people.
Yeah.
That's the same position both Israelites are in today.
Mm-hmm.
The same position. Once you wake up, find out who you are, you're in the same position. You hate. I was just talking to the brother today. You go to the parking lot, to the supermarket, or wherever you go, and you can look to the left, you can look to the right, you can have a head like an owl, 360 degrees all the way. They're coming from everywhere. They're all over the place.
Right.
There they are. And you be surrounded by them. And yet, we got to be amongst them. Till we listen to God.
Yeah.
And you hate it. You just hate it. When you woke.
Mm-hmm.
Come out, we got you surrounded.
We got you surrounded.
You know.
Yeah, they like roaches, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Straight up.
So let's jump over back to Esther chapter 6. So we seen here everything that was going on. They had the banquet. Actually, read 5 and read 13 and 14, so we can see what Esther was talking about regarding the feast that Haman, tried to make in honor of trying to destroy Mordecai. She said, "I didn't partake in that. I'm not toasting or being complicit in what's happening."
Chapter 6, verse 5.
No, 5, 13 and 14.
5. Oh, yeah. Chapter 5, verse 13. Yet all this availeth me nothing, so long as I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the king's gate.
So he was, Haman was glorying in all his riches and the promotions that he was getting, all the glory that he was getting. He said, all this doesn't mean nothing until I can kill that damn black Jew.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Verse 14. Then said Zeresh, his wife, and all his friends unto him, let a gallows be made of 50 cubits high, and tomorrow speak thou unto the king, that Mordecai may be hanged thereon. Then go thou in merrily with the king unto the banquet. And the thing pleased Haman, and he caused the gallows to be made.
So he made the gallows intending to hang Mordecai, and they was going to celebrate his death for the banquet. Drop down chapter 6, read 1 through 3.
Verse 1. On that night could not the king sleep, and he commanded to bring the book of records of the chronicles, and they were read before the king. And it was found written that Mordecai had told Bigthana and Teresh, two of the king's chamberlains, the keepers of the door, who sought to lay hand on the king Ahasuerus. And the king said, what honor and dignity have been done to Mordecai for this? Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, there's nothing done for him.
So notice he said he went to the records. He realized there was a plot against him. He figured out that Mordecai played a key role in his survival and killing these two that was committing sedition. And he said, well, whatever happened to Mordecai? Did anybody reward him? Did anybody give him something? They said, we didn't give him nothing. We always take advantage of the Jews. We always take advantage of the Black and Native Americans and Hispanics, man. Everything that we labor for, everything that we do, never get rewarded for or recognized for it. Everything gets stolen from us. We get bypassed, overlooked. They said, we didn't do nothing for him. Drop down, read verse 6, down to 9.
Verse 6. So Haman came in, and the king said unto him, what shall be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor?
So, obviously, Ahasuerus said, man, bring him in. I need to talk to him. Can't believe nobody rewarded this man. He saved my life. He said, what should I do to honor this man? Go ahead.
Now Haman thought in his heart, to whom would the king delight to do honor more than to myself?
Oh, he thought he was talking to him. Ahasuerus said, man, bring in the honorable man so I can reward him. Haman's coming in. It's my time, about to be promoted again. Oh, it's on. Haman said, well, yeah, okay, I'm about to go get honor to the king. Who's more worthy of more honor than me? The arrogancy of the so-called white man, man. The Most High said, the pride in thy heart have deceived thee. Go ahead.
Verse 7. And Haman answered the king, for the man whom the king delighteth to honor, let the royal apparel be brought which the king uses to wear, excuse me, and the horse that the king rideth upon, and the crown royal which is set up on his head, and let this apparel and horse be delivered to the hand of one of the king's most noble princes, that they may array the man withal whom the king delighteth to honor, and bring him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaim before him, thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delighteth to honor.
Go ahead.
Then the king said unto to Haman, make haste and take the apparel and the horse, as thou hast said, and do even to Mordecai the Jew.
Haman sitting up there smiling. He said, "Yeah, I'm getting the crown royal. I'm getting the royal apparel. I'm about to get it all." He said, "Haman, chop, hurry up, man. Carry all this stuff and go get us to Mordecai the Jew." You know how brokenhearted he probably was, man.
Oh,
He probably said, "Give it to the Jew."
His bottom jaw dropped down to the floor.
To the floor, man. Lip dragging and everything.
Balop.
He said, "What? Give it to who?" Oh, there must be a mistake. There must be a mistake. You talking about Mordecai the Jew? I gotta give it to him. He said, "Yeah, you go give it to him, man.
You go give it to him.
You go serve and you go put the crown on the head
God.
of this Benjamite, so-called black Jew." Damn heathen going, yeah, Malachi, you're gonna have to bow. Revelation 3:9, 2:9, you know. Them that say they're Jews or not, they're gonna come bow down at your feet.
Can you imagine his thoughts at that time? Oh no, I got to go bow down to this end.
Yeah, you know he was sick to his stomach, man.
What?
You know he was sick.
Hell no.
You know, he told man, can't get all of this stuff, man, and give it to Mordecai the Jew. That shit at the king's gate.
That reminds me of from the $2,000 limit.
I told him
his testimony last night. Yeah,
hey, I didn't talk to him about that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Most High.
Okay.
Turn it around, like he set this up.
That's right. Go ahead.
That sitteth at the king's gate, let nothing fail of all that thou hast spoken.
And he said, and you better not fail at delivering everything that I told you to do.
Right.
Come on.
Then took Haman the apparel and the horse, and arrayed Mordecai.
You know, he taking his gun.
I gotta do it. Oh my goodness.
Nigga.
And Haman looking up there.
Yeah. Hold on. He said, man, you better not fail either. Yeah, man. The king said, take this, man. Hold up. You know, Mordecai said,
No, you do
fix
it right.
Fix it up right.
Do it right.
Place some nice up my head, man. Yeah, give me that horse, man. Get out the way. Bow down. You know, probably told me, hold your hand out so I can step up on the horse. You know, you tell the Mordecai, you tell the Haman, man, hold your hand down. So you got to step on his hand to get on that horse. The whole time.
This scene right here, like a movie, got to go on in your head.
Yeah, you got to play this.
You got to play this out. You proud?
You got to play this out. You know, Jake gonna take advantage of this. Jake,
oh man,
Mordecai said,
I'm gonna take care of this.
I'm saying, nigga, you was trying to kill. Okay, now we see what it's like. Oh man, big time. Everybody, you can write down. For time's sake, you can write down chapter 7, 1 down to 6, and because that's showing you that when Esther went to confess to Ahasuerus that there was a hit out on their people, and the king said, well, whatever you need, Esther, let me know. I can't believe they're trying to kill your people and Mordecai's your people too. Oh hell no! Who's trying to do this?
Right.
She said that wicked Haman, your boy. He's the one out there doing it, right? You know, and actually read verse 5 and 6 in chapter 7.
Yeah.
So she breaking down to him when she finally makes way to the king's court. He welcomed her in. She didn't get put to death. He listened to her. He heard her out. She was telling him about the whole plot to kill her people, you know. And the king said, man, who would dare try to kill you and your people, man? I'm in love with you. What are you talking about? The people that birthed you?
Man, please.
Your lineage? If they anything like you and your cousin, please put them to death. Read 5 and 6.
Then the king Ahasuerus, chapter 7, verse 5. Then the king Ahasuerus answered and said unto Esther the queen, who is he and where is he that durst presume in his heart to do so? And Esther said, the adversary and enemy is this wicked Haman.
Mm.
Then Haman was afraid before the king.
You know, Haman was
He's
like,
shaking in his boots now. Oh my
he
goodness.
trying to back up out of there. He said, oh, see, they came in and man spoiled everything, man.
Busted. Exactly.
Drop down and read verse 9
Verse 9.
and 10.
And Harbonah, one of the chamberlains, said before the king, behold also the gallows 50 cubits high, which Haman had made for Mordecai, who had spoken good for the king, standeth in the house of Haman.
So obviously the king granted Esther's wish.
Uh,
It said that the man that was trying to plot and kill her people, he said, well, hey, let the judgment fall upon him. Let him get put to death. And the king said, you got it. Haman's out of here.
Yeah, that's what it said.
Mm-hmm.
Then the king said, hang him thereon.
Mm.
So they hang Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. Then was the king's wrath pacified.
See, that's the wrath of the king. Remember, it said the wrath was like a lion. He said, the Lord said, he was so hot that anybody was trying to make a move to kill his wife and her people. He said, man, I'm not stopping until he's put to death. He said, now I'm finally appeased. My wrath is appeased now that Haman got put to death. The roles was completely reversed, man. The vengeance of the Lord is so sweet.
So sweet.
The crown,
so sweet.
the robe, the royal apparel, everything got put on Mordecai. And the intentions of the hanging of Haman, the hanging of Mordecai actually got reversed and Haman got put to death. All praise to the Most High.
Praise to the Most High.
What's that? I hear you.
Were you going to go into her next request when he said anything else he could do? She was like, I want this.
Yeah.
Yo, go ahead.
Yeah. Chapter 8. So let's eat 8 and 1 and 2.
Book 8, chapter 8, verse 1. On that day did the king Ahasuerus give the house of Haman the Jews.
You talking about them being able to defend themselves? Oh. Yeah. Well, go ahead.
The house of Haman, the Jews' enemy, unto Esther the queen. And Mordecai came before the king, for Esther had told what he was unto her. And the king took off his ring, which he had taken from Haman, and gave it unto Mordecai. And Esther set Mordecai over the house of Haman.
So now Mordecai is taking over Haman's position. He's been elevated into a leadership position in the Persian and the Mede Empire. Esther's now, got Ahasuerus eating out the palm of her hand. Mm-hmm. Drop down, read verse 5. He said, anything else you need, anything else you want. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Verse 5. And said, if it please the king, and if I have found favor in his sight, and the thing seem right before the king, and I be pleasing in his eyes, let it be written to reverse the letters devised by Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, which he wrote to destroy the Jews, which are in all the king's provinces.
So she said, I need the decree to be reversed.
Right.
And to be taken off. So the hit that was put on all the Jews now is getting reversed. So all the heathen that was around that was seeking to kill Israel, now they was in open season for Israel to defend themselves and to kill them. Go ahead.
Verse 6. For how can I endure to see the evil that shall come unto my people? Or how can I endure to see the destruction of my kindred? Then the king Ahasuerus said unto Esther, the queen, and to Mordecai the Jew, behold, I have given Esther the house of Haman, and him they have hanged upon the gallows because he laid his hand upon the Jews.
Now drop down, read verse 11. So the decree went out throughout the 127 provinces. The decree was reversed. And now what did the Jews say? What did the new decree say?
Verse 11. Okay. Wherein the king granted the Jews which were in every city to gather themselves together and to stand for their life, to destroy, to slay, and to cause to perish all the power of the people, and promise that would assault them.
You see them same words that was made for us?
Turn it around.
He said, man, you the Jews, you can do the same thing to anybody that comes up against you.
God.
Go ahead.
Both little ones and women,
Mm.
and to take the spoil of them for a prey.
The exact opposite went to him, man.
God.
And Israel went to town on anybody that was trying to step to him. Drop down and read verse 17.
Verse 17. And in every province and in every city whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, the Jews had joy and gladness and a feast and a good day. And many of the people of the land became Jews, for the fear of the Jews fell upon them.
See, and that's prophecy too, because we know that the nations are going to fear the Most High. So the 10 men going to take a hold of the skirt of him that's a Jew.
That is a Jew.
You know, they're going to realize, just like we had the mixed multitude during the time of the Egyptian Exodus, they realize the power of the Lord is with us. They're going to say, man, we want to be like y'all. How do we get down? I'm not trying to die over this. It ain't that serious. If I got to follow you, I'll follow you. So it says, many of them became Jews, for the fear of the Jews fell upon them. Let's get to the ordinances. 9 and read 1 down to 3. So it says, now this is a good day, a feast day, joy and gladness. So when we keep these days, man, that's the spirit that we should be in. Joy, gladness. We're reading about this history of how the Most High completely reversed everything that was decreed against us, man, and turned it on the heathen, and the heathen was running in fear and wanted to be like us because the power of the Lord was upon Esther and Mordecai.
Verse 9, verse 1. Now in the 12th month, that is the month Adar, on the 13th day of the same, when the king's commandment and his decree drew near to be put in execution, in the day that the enemies of the Jews hoped to have power over them, though it was turned to the contrary, that the Jews had rule over them that hated them, the Jews gathered themselves together in their cities throughout all the provinces of the king Ahasuerus, to lay hands on such as sought their hurt, and no man could withstand them, for the fear of them fell upon all people.
See, no man could withstand the Jews, man. When we came back, when we was on it, nobody could stop us. Nobody. Go ahead.
Verse 3.
Yeah.
And all the rulers of the provinces and the lieutenants and the deputies and officers of the king helped the Jews, because the fear of Mordecai fell upon them.
They all feared Mordecai in his position. They said, man, we're going to help the Jews with whatever they need. The heathen going to fall in line. Drop down to read verse 10 down to 13.
Verse 10.
Mm-hmm.
The 10 sons of Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the enemy of the Jews, slew they. But on the spoil laid they not their hand. On that day, the number of those that were slain in Shushan the palace was brought before the king. And the king said unto Esther the queen, the Jews have slain and destroyed 500 men in Shushan the palace, and the 10 sons of Haman, what have they done in the rest of the king's provinces?
See, this go around, they didn't spare the bloodline. Haman, they said, you ain't getting away this time, man. All 10 sons get put to death.
Absolutely.
You know, they took out his whole dang bloodline, man. Go ahead.
What have they done in the rest of the king's provinces? Now, what is thy petition? And it shall be granted thee. Or what is thy request further? And it shall be done. Then said Esther, if it please the king, let it be granted to the Jews which are in Shushan to do tomorrow also according unto this day's decree, and let Haman's 10 sons be hanged upon the gallows.
She was a cold sister, man. She
cold.
said, I want more blood. I want more killing. I want Haman's sons dead.
All of them.
What was the name of that? Dang, it was one movie. I think it was something about Al Capone, and it was Robert De Niro, and he was saying, "I want the families dead. I want the houses dead. I want to burn their houses burned to the ground, and then when they're down, I want to piss on their heads." He was talking about that's how bad he wanted to destroy his enemies at the time. That's how she is. She like, I want all of them dead. The 10 sons. We don't need none of his spoils. We don't need nothing. Kill everybody.
Kill everybody.
You know,
absolutely.
That's how she was right. So drop down and let's read. So everything went according to plan. The Israelites and the Jews took back over under the leadership of Mordecai and Esther. Read verse 17.
On the 13th day of the month Adar, and on the 14th day of the same, rested they, and made it a day of feasting and gladness.
So feasting and gladness were happening during these times. Go ahead.
But the Jews that were at Shushan assembled together on the 13th day thereof, and on the 14th day thereof, and on the 15th day of the same they rested, and made it a day of feasting and gladness.
So initially they had the 13th through the 15th. They were feasting, resting, chilling, and rejoicing over the victories that we received.
Verse
so now
19.
We know with the histories of the Maccabees, the 13th day was taken over with Nicanor, and Purim remained the 14th and the 15th day. But continue on.
Verse 19.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore the Jews of the villages that dwelt in the unwalled towns made the 14th day of the month Adar a day of gladness and feasting, and a good day, and of sending portions one to another.
Sending portions one to another. So this was a gift exchanging and helping each other out during these times. So it says the 14th day of Adar, which is the 12th month, 14th day, which we began this evening, is why we're keeping Purim right now. Go ahead.
And Mordecai wrote these things and sent letters unto all the Jews that were in all the provinces of the king Ahasuerus, both nigh and far.
So everywhere we were scattered, we were keeping it. So whether we're here in modern day Babylon or we was back, the Lord said this is how it was supposed to be kept. Everywhere that Israel was at, we was keeping this time. That's how Mordecai sent the letters out to inform Israel. 14th and the 15th day, we aren't doing a damn thing.
Thank you.
But partying and enjoying and feasting and showing the gladness and the mirth for the deliverance of our people. Go ahead. Read down to 22.
To establish this among them, that they should keep the 14th day of the month Adar and the 15th day of the same yearly, as the days wherein the Jews rested from their enemies, and the month which was turned unto them from sorrow to joy, and from mourning into a good day, that they should make them days of feasting and joy, and of sending portions one to another, and gifts to the poor.
Right. The portions are like presents and giving gifts to the poor. These are times of charity, helping each other out, giving gifts one to another, gift exchanging. All those things are part of the traditions of keeping Purim. We'll close out with verse 26 down to 28.
Verse 26. Wherefore they call these days Purim, after the name Pur. Therefore, for all the words of this letter and of that which they had seen concerning this matter, and which had come unto them, the Jews ordained and took upon them, and upon their seed, and upon all such as joined themselves unto them, so as it should not fail, that they would keep these 2 days according to their writing and according to their appointed time every year.
So the appointed time is the 12th month, 14th and the 15th day of the month. We keep it yearly as an ordinance and as a feast day within our nation. Go ahead.
And that these days should be remembered and kept throughout every generation, every family, every province, every city, and that these days of Purim should not fail from among the Jews, nor the memorial of them perish from their seed.
Man, all praise, honor, glory to the Most High.
All praise.